I'm about to open. Welcome back, everyone. This is the first ordinary governing body meeting of the new term. It's being live webcast. We have electronic meeting attendance protocols, and I would like you to observe them if you happen to be online, although everyone's here, actually, oddly enough. So I won't worry about those. No one's online in here, so I'm going to ask that. Apologies, Sandra. We have absence from Councillors Henderson and Williamson, who have off to the AT board meeting because the AT have moved with their typical speed and not shifted their date yet. But in the fullness of time, they will. An early departure request from Councillors Bartley and Foley on some form of council business. Okay, anything else?
No.
I'll move those. Seconded by Councillor Sayers. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary. Exciting. That's our first major decision. Attendance by electronic link. There have been none.
Oh, yes, you've got
What?
Councillor Foley, if she needs it later, please.
Councillor Foley, if you need it later. Very good indeed. Okay, thank you very much. How late are you thinking about? God almighty, I hope it's gone by there. If it's not gone by there, I'll be grumpy.
Second it, please.
All right, mover and seconder, me and somebody else. Deputy, all those in favour, please say aye. Bingo. Declaration of interest. Any? None. Confirmation of minutes from the inaugural meeting and the extraordinary meeting on the 11th. Open and confidential. Mover and seconder, please. Burns and Deputy Mayor in favour. Aye. Contrary. Carried. Items not on the agenda. None run. Petitions. We've got no petitions. Public input. We have declined a request from the Palestine Solidarity Network, Aotearoa, Understanding Order 774D and E. The governing body does not have responsibility for Palestine. That's a reasonably good one. Okay. Local board input. There's none received yet.
Point of order, Mr.
What's
Mayor.
the point of order?
Could you please explain why you have rejected the request for the Palestine Network, Solidarity Network Aotearoa to speak today? People from all sorts of organisations have addressed this governing body, as they are entitled to. Why have you rejected their request? Because you're required to explain exactly why under standing orders.
7.4D and 7.73C, as the governing body does not have responsibility for Palestine.
Why is this governing body not the appropriate body to hear this address from these people who have been meeting every week for the past year down at the Queen Elizabeth Square, Te Komiti, thousands of people, thousands of concerned Aucklanders, and they come to the governing body and they're not allowed to speak. You have to explain why, given that Environment Canterbury, the Christchurch City Council and the Wellington City Council have heard and supported similar inputs from this organisation. Can you explain why you won't hear them? You won't allow us to hear these people?
Okay, I've made my decision. I just told you what it was. We don't have any responsibility. If the people from Canterbury want to listen to that, that's welcome. They can go down to Canterbury. That's it.
Point
made
of
my
order.
decision. Not hearing them.
Point of order, Mr. Beer.
It's a point of order.
And I'll say what the point of order is if you let me do it. Under 3.6.4 on a chairperson's ruling, if any member disagrees with a chairperson's ruling, the member is entitled to set out the reasons for disagreeing. So I'd like to take my opportunity to do that as per standing orders.
Fair enough.
Your ruling actually, Mr. Mayor, runs somewhat contrary to information that was forwarded to a number of councillors earlier in the week in terms of, in this case, it was a request from the Palestinian organisation to consider the proposal to fly a flag in line with the United Nations International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, which is recognised around the world and is recognised in other New Zealand cities. Now, during that correspondence, we were told that that any such decision on whether flags are flown in instances like that can be made by the governing body, and I'll quote the exact point in this that refers to decisions such as this should be made by members of the governing body. Well, obviously, Mr. Mayor, if people aren't permitted to present to the governing body during public input, it's a little bit hard for a governing body to make an informed decision in those circumstances. I would have thought that the very presence of over 20,000 people, which I believe was a record in a march a couple of months ago, in support of Palestinian solidarity in this very city, was reason enough for a presentation to be made in public input today. As I understand it, the presentation is dictated or centred around this very issue of celebrating or honouring the United Nations, which New Zealand, of course, is a signatory to, as indeed are a number of the resolutions New Zealand has voted with in respect of this matter. So I would ask then, Mr. Mayor, if the governing body is the entity that is charged with the responsibility of making a decision in a circumstance like this, and this is coming up, it's on the 29th of November, then I think it's entirely appropriate that the group that has made the request is able to talk to the governing body, because our very own officers have said that decision lies with us. So I'd urge you to reconsider that decision then, Mr. Mayor, in light of those communications from senior management within our own council.
I could refer this to the Community Committee, which is in line with the terms of reference and the committee's remit, so that it can be presented there. Okay?
So, point of order, sorry to prolong this, but as the chair of the Community Committee, I'm fine with that, but I would note that the decision around the flag issue does sit with GB, it doesn't sit with the Community Committee, so we will need to consider that. If you're happy to delegate that decision to the Community Committee, I'm very happy to accept that delegation. The other aspect is that my understanding is that one of the reasons that they wanted to speak to us was actually around procurement and investment, not just the flag. So that is a matter for the council, so I just wanted to put those concerns on record. Thank you.
Fair enough, but the flag issue wasn't raised in their submission, so it's just it's newly raised. So if there's a flag issue, that can come up in the future, but at the moment there's no flag issue. So thank you for that. Refer it to the Community Committee, and which is why we've got that. Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll move on to local board input. There's been none received. And I'll welcome the Eden Park Trust Board to address us. Metallica here was last meeting, made a lot of noise, and it was good to read the majority of the fans were from out of town and make a pretty good case for the government agreeing to the bed night visitor levy. Nick and your team, please come forward.
Kia ora koutou. Good morning, everyone. I'll just provide a very brief summary of the accompanying agenda report and then hand over to Nick and the team to present. So the Trust last presented to you in May 2025, and they were scheduled to appear before you again in September, but that was deferred due to the local body elections. So this is their next opportunity to talk to you. So just by way of key updates, which you'll find outlined in the agenda report, the loan facility balance with Council remains steady at 48.75 million.
Wayne Brown, you are a shameful individual. I hope you realise that. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! You should all be ashamed of yourself.
Free beer.
So the loan matures in September 2029 and the Trust continues to pay interest on that. In accordance with their loan facility agreement, the Trust have submitted their proposed operating budget to us for FY26 and they expect to make a modest net operating profit for the year ended 31 October 2026. Works underway to address the main stadium governing body resolutions that you made in March, which included in principle support subject to a number of conditions, including resolving governance arrangements. So council staff are in discussions with the Trust, Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby to progress that. In governance updates, Kieran Smith has recently handed over the role of chair of the Trust Board to Simon Bridges, and Kieran continues as a trustee and serves in the role of deputy chair. The government has released an investigative report around the planning provisions for Eden Park precinct, and that item will be coming to you for consideration, I believe, on the 27th of November. And then finally, in September, the government announced a $70 million tourism and events funding package, which includes opening opportunities for concerts and live music, which were previously not eligible for that funding. So I'm happy to take questions, but otherwise propose to hand to Nick and the team for their presentation. Thank you.
I think we'll welcome you, Nick, and make your presentation.
Morena, councillors, and congratulations on your appointment as councillors to our great city. We're going to go through a number of slides today and just highlight the last 12 months of Eden Park's activities. Brett will cover off on the financial performance of the last 12 months, and then I'll take the lead on the remainder of the presentation.
Kia ora and good morning, everybody. I'm just going to present quickly the results, the forecast results for financial year 2025. Our financial year end date was the 31st of October, so we're in the process of having our annual audit at the moment, so these are unaudited results, and there'll be some small adjustments to these for final year-end adjustments to things such as revaluations of property, but they will be fairly close. So we're happy to report a profit after interest but before depreciation of $4.2 million for the year, as per the first column. The second column there was the budget for the year. We had budgeted a fairly modest profit of $635,000 before depreciation, so we enjoyed the benefit of some very successful major events in the year, the Coldplay concert, the Luke Combs concert, and two very successful All Blacks test matches, particularly the South African test late in the year in September. Looking forward to 2026, we don't have quite the same level of major event activity in the year. We have the one concert day of Metallica, which took place, fortunately, under excellent conditions last week. However, in the previous year, between Coldplay and Luke Combs, there were 5 concert days. So we are projecting a modest profit before depreciation of $145,000 next year, but we will remain compliant with our covenant, interest cover covenant requirements at that point. There's nothing further I wish to say about the financial performance at this point.
Thank you, Brett, and I'd just like to cover off on the major event calendar in 24-25. 70% of today's activity wasn't part of our business model 5 years ago. Last year we had just over 700,000 attendees across our event calendar. We also did over 50,000 attendees throughout our corporate function business and approximately 10,000 in our experience opportunities, whether it be through glamping tours or rooftop tours. As Brett mentioned, it was a diverse calendar of content throughout the entire year, starting with those magnificent 3 nights of Coldplay, over 65,000 for the 3 shows per night. The Outer Oval continues to be a challenge for us with domestic cricket, and we welcome the opportunity and Auckland Cricket's announcement that their desire to move to Colin Maiden Park, along with Auckland Rugby's desire to move out of Eden Park. That will enable us to optimise our event calendar. We have secured the Blues for another 2 years. International cricket, although the fixtures didn't attract the attendance as we would have liked, it is an exciting year ahead with India touring. Luke Combs was record spends in our food and beverage, given the demographic over the 2 nights. And then capping off a big year with both monster trucks, but also then for those who were able to attend the Tongan fixture at Eden Park. It was spectacular to see such a vibrant crowd at our national stadium. Coming up over the next 12 months, as Brett mentioned, our concert content at this point in time is soft. However, we do have the Edinburgh Tattoo in February. I encourage you all to promote these great events. Without Eden Park underwriting that event wouldn't come to Auckland. So I just, again, request that all councillors, if you're not able to attend these events, please utilise your channels to promote our great city and the event calendars that we have. Another event that I want to touch on, that we were fortunate enough to go against 14 cities and secure the special convention of the Jehovah's Witness. I sent out some information to councillors. If you didn't have a chance to read that, there'll be over 20,000 attendees per day in January. 18 hotels have been confirmed, 2,200 odd rooms have been secured. The individuals attending the Congress will be between 3 and 14 days in the city. 37 hotels have been engaged for that event. At this stage, it's looking like around 17,000 room nights associated with that event at Eden Park. That event is on between the 9th and the 11th of January. Just reiterating that Eden Park continues to be the home of the Blues, the Black Caps, the All Blacks, and the international venue of choice, both rugby league and football. With regard to our community engagement, we often talk about the fact that Eden Park is a strategic asset for New Zealand, but a community asset for Auckland. I'm very proud to just report on the last 6 weeks of activities at the park. The Barfoot and Thompson fundraiser for Starship raised over $188,000. The Rebel Sport Cure Kids 24-hour challenge that's featured down on the bottom right, over $250,000. The Upside Downs fundraiser associated with children with Down syndrome raised over $85,000. And Jono and Ben with Kids Can played handball for 24 hours and raised over $500,000. So in just over 6 weeks, Eden Park has contributed through making the venue available over $1 million for various charities across Auckland and New Zealand. That's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the activities, and I won't go through all the philanthropic activities we're involved in, but it is important to note that these activities are critical for a number of the charities that operate in Auckland and New Zealand. So just going further on that, there's a whole range of other initiatives that we do. I remember one of the first CEOs I worked for in Melbourne said if we did everything to make money, we probably wouldn't do 70% of the activities at a stadium. And that's very true about Eden Park, that a lot of these activities are for raising funds for much needed charities and worthy charities. It's also the opportunity to present opportunities for the likes of Make-A-Wish and Will Enable, who have done a number of initiatives at the park. The last one I wanted to touch on was the University of Auckland and our Solve It initiative. So the University of Auckland is a strategic partner of Eden Park. The Solve It initiative saw students in their holidays. Over 100 students participated with 3 of our icon partners in various live initiatives. So whether it be AA Insurance, Samsung or Permobil, activities that were business problems that could be solved by the students coming together. And those students then had the opportunity to win prizes but also get further employment opportunities through that initiative. As far as our sustainability initiatives and our community engagement, the Hood continues to be our channel into our community. We have over 1,500 members of the Hood, 350 businesses, and also 12 schools that participate. We do community markets involving the Hood. We do a whole range of e-waste collections through our partnership with Samsung. We do first aid courses and also we do growth space sustainability initiatives in our car park and in our garden area. I just wanted to touch on the community engagement, and I was fortunate enough to get some research by the local member, Helen White. The net support for Eden Park to hold more events is over 73%, according to Helen's recent research. Enabling other activities is over 86%, and increasing sports activity is 80%. So I just want to reiterate to those councillors around the table that perhaps aren't aware of the work that we've done in the community. We have such a great response from our community. Our staff are very engaged with the community, and I must emphasise that our community wants more activity at our national stadium. With regard to sustainability, the team was this year able to win 2 global awards. One was in the sustainability and community space at the Stadium Business Awards in 2025 for one of the most sustainable stadiums globally. Our waste management and recycling, all waste created at the park is sorted on event days. We also engage with community groups and church groups around the street cleaning to ensure the venue presents the community post-event in a cleaner situation than it was pre-event. In terms of that food waste, we do see the ability to continue to remove plastic out of our activities. So we serve all our drinks in aluminium cans that get recycled through a Māori initiative. Our Morningside Urban Market Garden now, that's run by the community, so all our scraps, food scraps you can see in those images go into that space and then gets composted. We also have 360,000 bees on site, generating approximately 800 jars of honey each year. With regard to energy efficiency, we've been fortunate to convert a number of our areas to LED lighting. It is something that we're focused on with the CRL opening. We will be 7 minutes to the centre of town, so we are promoting the need for greater utilisation of public transport. In general, we see over 60% of our patrons coming to Eden Park on public transport, and I'm confident that's going to increase as the CRL opens. With regard to water conservation, the councillors around the table will know approximately 18 million litres of water annually is saved and diverted from city water by utilising a bore at Eden Park that irrigates the number 1 and number 2 fields and eliminates the need for city water usage. We have Green Star accreditation, and as I mentioned earlier, with Samsung, one of our Icon partners, doing a range of e-waste collections, and that continues to be an initiative that we'll do into the coming year. Our inclusion and accessibility, we lead the world in this space, and I'd encourage you all to come and take a venue tour. I know some of you have seen the venue and what we do in this space, but we are very proud of the work we've done with Permobil around our comfort zones that give mobility and accessibility patrons a comparable experience at the park, whether it be with screens, heaters, or indeed tables in that area, but it also puts a physical barrier to ensure that people are not encroaching on that zone. We also have a sensory room at the venue. We had to expand that space. We were able to get grant funding from one of the community trusts to enable that space to be implemented, and approximately 65 families per event go into that space for up to 15 minutes for our neurodiverse community. We have initiatives for individuals who have low vision. We've implemented hidden disabilities, sunflower lanyards, and I do want to touch on a world record attempt with Permobil in December for the number of wheelchair patrons coming to a stadium on a day. So we've seen a significant increase, and the ability to park, mobility parking on Cricket Avenue has been a game changer for us with the new comfort zones. Our Māori strategy, for those who are able to attend and participate, the world's largest haka at Eden Park. It aligned beautifully with our kōtuitanga, with Ngāti Whātua. We've done a lot of work in this space. We do hope that Te Matatini comes back to Eden Park sooner than the 20 years it took last time, but in saying that to be what voted as one of the top 10 BBC happy moments for the year was something very special, and for those who were able to attend that event, it has changed the world. The Guinness Book of Records now no longer allows a cultural event to be hijacked like it was by the French. So the French previously held the record for the world's largest haka at approximately 3,000. Now, thankfully, it's back in New Zealand, Aotearoa, and that won't happen again. In terms of economic benefit, for those of you who haven't had the chance to read the research undertaken by the University of Auckland, I encourage you to take a copy of the economic contribution of Eden Park to the Auckland region. The numbers are compelling. To think in 2020 Eden Park couldn't hold concerts. And now when we see up to 500,000 people a year coming to our concerts, and let's hope that we can deliver more. I was with businesses yesterday. A lot of those businesses are struggling in Kingsland, Dominion Road. Without Metallica, one business said to me yesterday they wouldn't have their doors open by the end of the month. So that is the impact that our concerts have. And I just want to emphasise that it's not only for the direct association around Eden Park. Over 70% of attendees at Metallica were for outside of Auckland or New Zealand. And this is a consistent trend. We're going to continue to attract the largest artists to our national stadium, and we need to ensure that Auckland gets a fair share of the $70 million government investment over the next 2 years to attract major events. And Mayor Brown, I do support a bed levy. If hotels are charging $2,000 a night for people to go to Metallica, I think it's fair to say Eden Park or the council should get a small percentage of that to ensure that we can continue to attract the likes of these artists into the future. And it shouldn't be the artists, it shouldn't be the promoter, or it shouldn't be the venue taking all of the risk. Luke Combs' case study, again, I'm mindful of time and you've got a full agenda today, but please take the time to read the research. This is research undertaken by Auckland Unlimited to demonstrate the benefits for our city. We want a city that people want to live, stay, play and work, and with major events comes a whole range of opportunities, including the ability for 3,000 people to work on an event day at Eden Park. In our catering team, over 70% are Māori and Pacific, and we know over 60% of our workforce, it's a second job. So we need to ensure that we have flexibility with our event calendar, including having concerts on Sundays or cricket or rugby games on a Sunday without the requirement to spend $15,000 on a consent. I've touched on the economic benefits associated with Jehovah's Witness Convention. Again, if anyone needs any further detail around our calendar of content over the next 3 or 6 months, please do promote our events. We need people to be attending our events, and I do believe as councillors, part of your role is actually to promote major events, attend those events and actually advocate for future events. In relation to asset management, this is a challenge for Eden Park. Approximately $70 million is required to be spent over a 10-year period. You saw with Brett's figures, around $8 million of depreciation annually. We budget for between $1 and $3 million a year for asset upgrades. For us to be able to attract the likes of Coldplay, Luke Combs and Metallica, we need to be the venue of choice, not only for New Zealand, but also against the east coast of Australia. Changes that we've made to our operating conditions at the park have increased our concert capacity to 65,000. Further changes in future could see us get to 70,000, but that comes with investment. And some of that investment is well overdue, and we welcome the council's vote last year, I think it was in March, that Eden Park can have access to a challengeable or ability to approach the council in relation to CapEx funding against the other venues in Auckland. Contestable, thank you, Brett, is the word I was looking for. I have a 1-year-old son and he was up at about 4:30 this morning, so and a 5 and 7-year-old daughter. Got to mention them as well. In terms of the asset management, we've categorised for 25-26, category A, B, C. You can see 2, 1.6 and 5.6. Stadiums are $1 billion asset as a minimum. It comes at a cost. It's no different to maintaining a house. It's one of the biggest challenges for any piece of large infrastructure, and Eden Park cannot continue to fund that alone. In relation to the council and governing body, we just note the resolutions of the March meeting. We are working in collaboration with CEO and his team around initiatives, whether it be at Eden Park, the joint management model, or indeed Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby. We are very supportive of those discussions, and that has been led in part by our previous chair and deputy chair, and will continue to be so with our new chair. We included these resolutions for those councillors who may not have been across it in relation to what transpired in March last year. What I would say is that we are working with central government around stage 1 of Eden Park 2.1 and finding the appropriate funding to ensure that we can attract the likes of a Cricket World Cup in future or a Men's Lion Series in 2029. I just wanted to touch on the planning restrictions that we currently operate under. If you have had the chance to read through the economic contribution of Eden Park to the city, we are missing out on content because of our planning restrictions. To put it in a context for some councillors around the table, our consent is dictated by the time the sun sets in the sky. And that's whether or not we're a night or a day event. There's a whole range of overlay that limits our ability to operate. We want to be a facility that can be operating 7 days a week. Just to put it in context, I don't think any stadium in the world has 40 concerts a year. So we just need to be very clear. I did some research into the stadium I worked at, Marvel in Melbourne. Over a 13-year period, we averaged 2.5 concerts a year. So the thought that we're going to be having 40 concerts a year is flawed. What we are wanting to do is be able to attract a variety of artists that don't necessarily do multiple nights. We're restricted to 6 artists currently, over 12 shows. We're restricted on the number of concerts that we can have, so it means we're making decisions around passing on smaller shows in the likelihood that bigger shows may come to New Zealand. So there's a whole range of areas that we've touched on and communicated with councillors around the restrictions that we currently operate under. It takes up time, it takes up resources, but it also takes up money that could be reinvested into the asset. Eden Park 2.1, it's our future covered. The focus for us is around stage 1. That enables a retractable stand in the north stand, brings you closer to the action for rugby in 13 minutes. And for cricket, it will put the cricket field into test match compliant, but also give us a front running for the quarterfinal and semi-final of the Cricket World Cup moving forward. These are the opportunities in the future for us. Unfortunately, we've missed out on the Women's Lion Series. I must admit, I'm extremely disappointed that that's not being played at our national stadium. We have been an advocate for women's sport over the last 5 years. We've held 3 Women's World Cups over a 3-year period. It was a paradigm shift for women's sport, seeing Hannah Wilkinson score the opening goal of the FIFA Women's World Cup, or the Black Ferns be undefeated at Eden Park and win a Rugby World Cup final. So Eden Park was very strong in putting a bid to secure the Women's Lion Series for our national stadium, but unfortunately that's going to be played at Go Smart Stadium. As far as then other fixtures on the horizon, we are hopeful that discussions continue around State of Origin, the T20 World Cup, and as I mentioned, the Men's Lion Series in 2029. Some of these points have been talked out previously. We do want to see the collaboration between the 4 venues. A venue of best fit strategy is something that we subscribe to. If we look at the Warriors playing the Broncos with Reece Walsh playing defending premiers, we'd expect that to be a greater attendance than Mount Smart. So we do think that there's an opportunity to deliver a venue of best fit philosophy across venues. We only had to see with the recent League International with Tonga and over 40,000 fans that League fans do want to come to Eden Park. There are other areas that we think that collaboration can deliver cost savings but also synergies. That is also in the turf management space, event management space, infrastructure and asset management, co-promotion around Auckland, service provision, a Māori strategy, but also alcohol management. So we welcome the ongoing discussions with Phil and his team, and we'll continue to do so with an open philosophy. Thank you for your time.
It's a very impressive presentation. Thank you very much for that. I have a couple of little questions. With the planning limitations, what actions are you proposing and how can we help? And the second one was, who makes the decision about the Women's Lions tour?
So both Eden Park and Auckland Unlimited's venues bid for those fixtures, and then NZR ultimately determine that.
Who makes the decision?
New Zealand Rugby.
Oh, New Zealand
Yep.
Rugby. Okay.
In
And
relation
what
to the
about how can
planning
we help
conversation, Wayne, I've got a number of points that we've emphasised in our submission. The number of concerts. To give an example, if someone wants to do a residency, we wouldn't be able to do that in a given week. And this is becoming a trend because we're seeing artists want to come to one stadium. The production costs, they fly people into one city and expect people to come to that city. So we need to get greater flexibility around the number of concerts, the number of artists, and the number of that can be held in a given month. When concerts can occur, there's no reason, if you can go to Countdown on a Sunday night, there's no reason why you can't go to a concert on a Sunday night. We had a concert on Wednesday evening. Thursday was a school day. We cleaned the streets. I personally drove and walked the streets at 6 a.m. the following day. They were cleaner than what they were the night previously. A number of residents said they couldn't hear the event. So from our side, we think after now delivering some 10 plus shows, we know how to deliver these events. The outer oval is a great way to manage people in and out of the venue. We do have the flexibility now to go to 11 o'clock. We chose not to do so for most of our shows, but we, again, want to see that flexibility with a Sunday night. Concert timing and duration. We are missing out on festivals. Currently, we are restricted on the number of hours that people can perform on stage. We have restrictions around our sound checks, bump in and bump out. As technology evolves, even the staging evolves. It's gone from having steel structures to aluminium structures. The bump in and bump out is far more efficient. We don't have the impost that was perceived when the original consent was put in place. 9-type sporting fixtures I mentioned around dictating as to the number of events or the times in which we can host events. We can't have triple headers on a Friday, Saturday and a Sunday without applying for consents. We have lighting curfews that limit the ability to operate our bump out processes and precinct objectives and policy. So what I want to emphasise is cricket and rugby will continue to be priorities for Eden Park, international cricket and rugby. Super Rugby, you saw with the Blues, we were adamant that we wanted the Blues to continue to play at Eden Park. So we know that we can manage a concert calendar with our sports content without disruption. We want to maximise the attendances for the city and enabling us to have more events will only benefit the city and the surrounding businesses. So I can share with all councillors the research by Helen White, MP for the local area, to give you some context and I suppose reassurance around the community support for these changes.
Councillors, I'm just making you aware that on the Thursday Planning Committee agenda there will be an item on Eden Park planning rules.
Okay, that might solve some things. So I've got Councillor Newman first, please.
Good morning, Nick. And as a devout Chiefs supporter, I know what the final should be, and I hope that you can host. But I I've got a chair for the Chiefs, but my questions are in relation to the your presentation's largely answered my question. I'm assuming that beyond the marquee national opportunities around the World Cup and the State of Origin and the Lions Tour, your challenge really is in relation to time of play, which affects broadcasting rights. Would that be the biggest challenge? I mean, this seems to me that this is the biggest challenge for the Indian cricket team coming here, opportunities for Big Bash, what have you. It is the broadcasting rights and the time for which the games need to play to align with that. Is that your biggest challenge? And I assume that that's probably going to bleed into future conversations about variations to consenting for Eden Park.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Newman. It certainly is a challenge for us. So historically, broadcast rights is the number one revenue for sporting code. So as a result of that, they're always looking to maximise their broadcast rights. Unfortunately, a lot of the time to the detriment of local attendances. But if we want to have that content, we've got to be available to be able to host the games at those times.
And would that, because it comes up in the investigation and it's referenced in your report, I'm assuming that that would probably go quite some way towards addressing your EBITDA results. I get that it's obviously good for the code, but to have that content available, even if it's at a time that Aucklanders wouldn't normally expect it, you'd still expect revenue from ticket sales and the associated revenue with catering, etc. Do you have any sense as to how useful that would be for your financial performance?
Well, if you look at our financial statements, our Icon partner revenue, our corporate suites and members are two of our significant line items. So irrespective of the cricket attendance being 10,000, partners like Samsung, Kia, Qatar, AA Insurance all get exposure on the broadcast, both locally and internationally. So for our business model to survive and thrive, we need to be able to have revenues inside the four walls of Eden Park, but also external to the four walls, and that's why the broadcast is so important for us as well. So adding additional content, and we need to get more people to Eden Park, and whether it be quality content or indeed community content, it all plays a part in the narrative of making us financially sustainable.
Good question, thank you very much. I've got Councillor Patterson-Hamlin.
Kia ora, thank you very much. Kia ora, lovely to see you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your many accessibility measures and work with organisations such as At Random, the Upside Downs Education Trust, and for the work on the haka. Before I ask my question, I'd just like to correct the record slightly. Your report quite rightly highlights the ongoing impact for the mana of the haka from that event. However, it doesn't mention that the driving force behind that event was Dame Hinewehi Mohi and the Rokatauri Music Therapy Trust, that the event was in fact a fundraiser for that organisation and they are the ones who hold the record. I acknowledge that Eden Park did discount what they charged Rokatauri for the use of the stadium, and that's a really awesome example of a community partnership making a difference, but I would appreciate it if the record was corrected to reflect that. My actual question is in response to your request for us to use networks to promote the Edinburgh Tattoo, among other things. Dunedin is a sister city of Edinburgh. They are both UNESCO cities of literature, as Glasgow and Auckland are both UNESCO cities of music. Is there engagement with the Dunedin City Council on this? With Eden Park positioning itself as a national stadium, that kind of interaction seems like a really logical one.
So there's been, and thanks for your comments around the world's largest haka, and certainly it was acknowledged when the award was made. What I would say is that we did a cost recovery basis, so the entire event was free of charge from a venue perspective. It was just a cost recovery of contractors. So in relation to the Dunedin question, yes, certainly there's been extensive promotion, not necessarily directly with the council, but there's a variety of database across the country and diaspora relating to Scotland, and we want this is a traditional Edinburgh tattoo. We need it to be more than just the traditional attendees. We want the theatre goers going to the event, and it is a spectacle. It's the first time it's been in Auckland, and possibly it'll be the only time in Auckland. So we need to ensure that the whole, I suppose, array of attendees are coming to that event. But thanks for the suggestion with the council.
Councillor Ferry, please.
Kia ora, thank you. I've got a very specific question, and it's about the item that's coming to us on Thursday, but this is the chance to ask you. And I know that things are coming, the information that's coming to us as decision makers is coming together very quickly. I had the good fortune to be at the Albert Eden local board meeting last week where they were determining their feedback, so I've sort of had a little bit of a pre-warning of some of the stuff that was presented to them. So I wanted to ask you a specific question about one of the things that came up there, which was the impact of smaller shows in terms of the sound for the neighbourhood. And so whether, what are there any extra measures that Eden Park could be looking to take that would address that? Because the information that was presented verbally to the local board last week from council staff was that those smaller shows have around the same or maybe only slightly less of a sound impact for the neighbours. So I wondered whether with the smaller shows there is more ability to put in place mitigation for the sound stuff, and what your thoughts were on that. Thank you. Sorry for the long preamble, Chair, but I feel it was kind of a little bit necessary with that one.
Thanks for the question, and we don't have access to that report, but I sat there and I didn't have the opportunity to refute it, and I would strongly refute that. If we were in a situation, and again, we've got an event next year we're looking at, would be classified a concert. It's Picnic in the Park for a children's artist. I would suggest the PA system would be similar to that I'm using now. So how anyone could present without consultation with the venue and saying that event would have the same impact on the residents as Metallica is astounding to me. And so I think you get the right people in the room, you get the right outcome. And we don't have the right people in the room when a local board is getting presented information and making decisions on the livelihoods of businesses without the right people in the room. And so to not even have a copy of that report to be able to refute it, I've raised my concerns with the local board on that, because I sat there and I was given, as you know, 3 minutes, but then they gave additional time, and I didn't have the opportunity to refute that. I would have said exactly the same at that meeting as I'm doing today, that we have a variety of events, and when I say events and concerts, the classification of that children's picnic on the park would be classified a concert, and the PA decibels is going to be very different to Metallica, because it's naturally, if anyone attended the Tongan fixture, we had Josh Totofi performing at the end of it. The PA system for Josh was very different to what it was for Metallica.
Thank you.
Councillor Filipina, please.
Ata Māori he mana, Chair. Ata Māori e koutou. And to you, Nick, and the team, ngā mihi kia koutou katoa. I've got two questions. One is in regards to your last slide, and that slide was future model, collaboration, etc. And I just want to mention a letter that was sent from the mayoral office in the 21st of December in 2022. In that, it was to Jenna Wooten, who was the chair of Tātaki Auckland Limited. And there's a part in there around key expectations of Tātaki, and that is deliver a plan for a single operator for Auckland's 4 main stadia by 1st of July 2023. So we have a look at this. I want to know, how are we getting on? I've asked this question several times over the last few years. Nick, how are we getting on here? Because reading that slide, they're still in progress, and I just want to see what your response is to that. And then I've got one more pātai. Kia ora.
Kia ora, and thanks for the question. I wasn't involved in those discussions in 2022. It was driven by Auckland Cricket Rugby and a delegate from Eden Park Trust. If you can recall, the conversation stalled as a result of the main stadium tender process, and it was seen as, given there was that ongoing REI process, that it wasn't appropriate at the time, until such time as Eden Park was nominated as the venue of choice by the council and the National Stadium. That has now occurred, and now conversations continue with Auckland Council around the exiting of Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby. Both Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby have written to the government and expressed on 2 occasions their desire now to work with council and government to exit Eden Park. And so there's a number of positive steps occurring currently, and I'm encouraged with the conversations with the Chief Executive, and we've been having a working group now for, I'd suggest, some 6 months on this specific issue.
Do you think, supplementary to that first part, do you think that the collaboration around the 4 stadia is heading in the direction that you think would be beneficial for Tāmaki Makaurau?
There's a number of steps required. The first 2 steps is the exit of Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby. That then frees up the ability for the 4 venues to look at how they can be managed under a joint management model, and whether that be from an operational efficiency or indeed an asset management perspective. Overarching philosophies need to be what's best for Auckland. And so our management is committed to that investigation with council. Our board is committed to exploring that with council. But as I say, the first priority for us is Auckland Cricket and Rugby's exit.
Kapai, last part I hear, mana, Chair, and that is in our agenda, there is mention around your governance at Eden Park. In particular, my pātai is that, have there been any discussions that have taken place that you can share with us around a future Board of Trustees? Because you said that Auckland Cricket, who have 2, according to the agenda, and Auckland Rugby have 2, the ability to have trustees on their board. What changes, if anything, will happen once Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby leave Eden Park?
I would envisage that those roles would be replaced once they've exited Eden Park.
And supplementary, and replaced by, obviously not from Auckland Cricket and Auckland Rugby because they're gone. They'll just be replaced in anybody.
I'm mindful it's obviously a governance conversation and conversations around ongoing funding and collaboration with council, but it wouldn't be, I don't think, unreasonable to expect that if council is making a contribution to Eden Park in the future, that they would have representation on the trust.
Councillors, it would be a function of the design of the new trust arrangement or governance structure itself. So,
Good question, thank you. Councillor Fletcher, next please.
Thank you for your presentation, and as a resident, I really want to thank you for the valuable contribution that Eden Park is making to our community. It's made a substantial difference. My question is a slightly obscure one. I was sitting on the front deck listening and watching Metallica over last week, and the only thing that really jarred with me, and it's not something just exclusive, I've got to say, to Eden Park, but the complaints that I'm getting are around fireworks. That, you know, we're just getting indiscriminate use of fireworks across the area, and that's perhaps a subject for central government to really give some consideration to. Can you talk to the issue of fireworks being part of concerts going into the future, and whether or not there's a way to be able to warn people around those, because pets, it might seem insignificant, but it does. If we are to have more events, I do think we need to be careful around those things that are triggers for animals and for people, and certainly fireworks are up there.
So for not all shows that pyro is included, there's flame pots that are used inside the venue. You can see on this image, it's just that's from Coldplay. They had a small fireworks display at the end, and there is reasoning for that. It's part of it is around crowd management. So to disperse the crowd, some people leave immediately. The other thing is also often is to get the artist out of the venue. So but it's limited in terms of its scope, and it's not for every concert. But I'll take it on board, and as I say, I don't think it's something that you'll see at every concert at Eden Park.
But I just really want to reiterate, whether it's the Kingsland Business Association and the just every group that I meet and talk to, just feel really indebted to Eden Park for lifting the opportunities that they have, and it's certainly turned things around.
Thanks for your comments.
Councillor Watson, please.
Just picking up on your comments, Nick, about this desire to grow the content, and particularly under Eden Park 2.1, which with the new cricket format enables all forms of cricket, T20, one day and test match. I can understand the appeal then for these big events and growing the offering with that. I was under the impression that also as part of the 2.1, there's also the ability to cater for smaller events because of the structure of the seating. So for instance, we've had 3 international cricket teams here before. It's not even Christmas, and we've had Australia, England, West Indies, and depending on where the team sits or what country it's come from, it can be bigger or smaller crowds. So am I right in assuming in that drive for more content that there's still the flexibility to have much smaller crowds? So sure, state of origin stuff, if they come along, the place will be packed out. But is there, with the new lighting technology and whatnot, the ability to have these games that you maybe only get 5 or 10,000 people, but the ground is configured or the appearance is such that it is almost a boutique-looking type of stadium too? Is that possible under 2.1, and if so, is it part of this drive to just have Eden Park fizzing all the time with big events, smaller events, community events?
Thanks for the question. Yes, it is. And if anyone watched the 2-day test in Perth, they created a bank, a grass bank within Optus Stadium. So stadiums are now looking to create new configurations within the seating bowl to offer a variety of experiences. If people saw at our Tongan fixture, we have now 2 swimming pools down the western end of the venue and a beach that enabled families to buy a ticket into that space. So you need to create experiences. We operate in the experience economy, so that new design for 2.1 stage 1 would enable smaller crowds to feel intimate, and then enable the larger crowds to have that overall 50,000 capacity. With regard to the recent cricket games, if anyone attended those, the 2 West Indian fixtures came down to the last 2 balls and then the final ball. And it certainly sounded more than 10,000 within the venue for both of those. But it did look sparse, and there are technologies now available with lighting on seats, etc., that can address some of these concerns.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Nick, for your presentation and for the work that you do. Really awesome to see the community involvement and commitment that you have to the community goals. So anyway, thanks also for the comment about it's part of our role to promote major events and to promote the events that you have at Eden Park, because when we do come, we did get a lot of criticism in the public for being at Eden Park, and then we have a vote on Eden Park. So that's I find that reassuring, and I appreciated your comment there. I've started meeting with a retirement village in my ward, Logan Campbell, massive retirement village, and their advocacy group, they raised with me their issues. They want to see more major events, and a priority for them is Eden Park. So I thought that was really funny. I'd share that with you, that Eden Park is on the list for one of my retirement villages. So I want to pick up on your comments before about risk. And you said something like the risk shouldn't be borne by the promoter or the artist. So who should it be borne by? And is that a major impediment for major events coming to Eden Park? Thanks.
Thanks for your comments, and I'm very pleased to hear that about the retirement village. We have a lot of community groups and retirement villages come through for our tour program, so I'll pass it on to the team. Just in relation to major events, it's a very competitive landscape. When you look at Western Australia, they're paying up to $5 million an event or a show to secure content. The east coast of Australia, you have 4 major venues in Melbourne, you have 2 major venues in Sydney, you've got now Brisbane with an event strategy leading into the Olympics and funding available. I recently was fortunate to go to the Edinburgh Tattoo in Edinburgh. You go to Manchester, you go to Liverpool, these cities all have bed levies. And those levies pay for services associated with major events or indeed cleaning up the city after a major event. And I look at even this weekend, on Sunday I sit on the Santa Christmas Parade Trust. Each year we fundraise about $1 million to put on that event. A free community event, over 100,000 people will attend. And you look at that and you say, without those businesses, we wouldn't be able to have that event in the city. However, with a bed levy, or a fund available, those types of events would also be able to apply and attract funding. So that's my comment around, I don't think it should be the promoter or the venue, the artist or the city that bears the risk. I think people are benefiting from these major events, and there should be the ability to use that funding to attract future events. There's no question there are 3 major artists in Australia currently, or in the previous weeks and future weeks, that without funding, obviously they didn't come to New Zealand. There's other factors often that are the case, but in this instance I'd say having an event fund will help us attract funds in the events in the future.
Councillor Hills, please.
Kia ora, and thank you for all the work you and the team do, Nick. I think, yeah, it's been pretty fantastic seeing the last few years at Eden Park. Thank you for the invite to Metallica, but I am not the biggest fan, so I did say no, and hopefully someone else more deserving was able to take my spot. But I am going to Lady Gaga in Brisbane, but I'm assuming Lady Gaga is one of those examples where it would have only been here if we'd had the funding to get her here, or someone of that. You know, I'm hearing the $5 and $10 sort of $1 million price tags that the state governments are putting into artists like that to hold them there. Would you assume, without commercial sensitivities, but that type of artist is there because of the money?
Well, we give examples in the past of Coldplay coming to New Zealand and not to Brisbane. And so I think that probably answers the question, that Brisbane's probably been more proactive in terms of funding available. I know that promoters don't like to talk specifically about artists, but what I would say is that the government's announcement, we welcome the 70 million fund, because at least, and promoters have publicly come out and said, we're now back in the game. So I'm sure that will assist. And I think when you're driving through Mission Bay 2 days after Metallica and there's 10 people at a cafe wearing a Metallica t-shirt, and the number of people that went to Metallica on a Wednesday and Tool on a Saturday, it just shows what these major events can do for a city. So I don't like talking about specific artists. I can assure you that all of those artists we spoke to, it was just a matter of trying to find a model that could work.
Okay. The changes, haven't seen the final report for this week yet. There's a lot of advice going into it, but I assume there's going to be some factors about the difference between now and the full suite of what the government's offering. And I guess how you talked about it a little bit, like we'll never have 40 events, but I guess how do you give a bit of a flavour of what the future's looking like? Is it even plausible that you could, if, you know, any stadium could have that many events that look like a concert actually in 1 year? Is that the aim ever, or are you looking at, look, we would love to have, 20 weeks out of 52 sort of full weekends of concerts and things, or what does it look like? What does the future look like? That's what I think is the hard. It's kind of like this or that.
The best way I can answer that question is if we, as a business, hadn't changed, we'd be extinct. So I mentioned earlier, 70% of what we're doing wasn't part of our business model when I started. If you look to something like the Shakespeare Globe Theatre, that unfortunately, after a successful run, fell over, we wanted to look at bringing that back at Eden Park. Now, I look at that and I go, is that going to be an impost? We've got car parks, we've got a facility that could host that event, but we don't have consent. So it's just another barrier. We've got to eliminate barriers for business to be able to do business. And so what we're talking about is saying that there's case studies globally that sees that venues have 80% idle capacity. So what we're doing is challenging what a stadium can operate as. I was recently approached by a charter school to see whether or not we had space to do a charter school. We considered it, but it couldn't work. We're currently working with Compass around up to 40,000 school lunches on a daily basis where we heat them and distribute around Auckland. So we're a piece of infrastructure that needs to get used. So I can't tell you what the future looks like in terms of utilisation. What I can say is that we need to get Super Rugby crowds up to what they used to attract, because at the moment they're not attracting the crowds that we need. The All Blacks, I think, touch wood, will continue to sell out, irrespective of, the Fortress continues, 52 straight without a loss. But other activity, there's a whole range of genres. We should be looking at K-pop. We should be looking at a Pacifica to replace One Love. There's a whole range, but we can't do that currently. We can't hold festivals. So that's, I look at the restrictions on the Domain and Western Springs. So why can't we be doing 10,000 standing only on the field of play? Well, that'd be classified one of our 6 artists and 12 shows. So we wouldn't even contemplate that currently.
The other question, just there's a lot of focus on this area at the moment because of the Plan Change 120, obviously the intensification there. Are there good examples, like not saying that you would have the money to do this, but the airport have a trust, they pay for double glazing and noise related things in the houses around the airport. Is there an expectation, or have you spoken to developers of what the future looks like with, obviously we're going to be seeing a lot more people living here at the same time as there could be double the concerts over time. Do you see that as something that brushes up against it, or is actually the models overseas fine with, this is like people choose to live in a vibrant area with lots of concerts, etc.?
We haven't spoken to developers, but what I would say is there's countless examples globally of apartments being built on the periphery of stadiums. So if you look at Wembley now, there's over 100,000 people working and living and working in that precinct, all within, in some instances, 10 metres of the concourse at Wembley. And people do now concert reviews where they open their balcony, listen to a show and do a review. So they're choosing to live near Wembley. If you look at the stadium I came from in Melbourne, every parcel of land around the perimeter of Marvel Stadium is now being developed. So I think that's just a natural evolution. I do support intensification around Kingsland because you've got a CRL and we need to see greater occupancies at the restaurants, cafes and bars, and without people makes it very difficult for them to survive.
Cool, thank you. And I won't speak in the main thing, but just want to say, last week was a testament to what it can bring for the city, walking up and down to the bus from work. The whole place was packed all day with Metallic fans and different people, Tool fans, everyone else. So it shows that we need these events. So kia ora.
Okay, Councillor Burns, please.
Thank you, Nick. I think you've already sort of answered this through Councillor Hills, but like Goldilocks, 12 is not enough, 40 is too many. So what is that just right? Is that what you're saying to Councillor Hills? You don't know what that is?
My answer is like a hotel. A hotel wants to be able to operate 365 days a year, but they don't have 100% occupancy. We want to have the flexibility. Is it unreasonable on New Year's Eve to be able to go to midnight? I don't think it is. Even with a 7, 5 and 1 year old, probably our house will be awake at midnight. And so at the moment we can't hold a show on New Year's Eve because we have constraints. And so what we're doing and what we're, I suppose, advocating for is enablement and flexibility. So when we can have conversations with promoters, it's not subject to having a consent approved. Because one event that we've had to apply for a consent, it's cost us a significant amount. Hopefully we attract that event, but if we don't, it's money down the drain.
So can you remind me why we can't have concerts on a Sunday night?
We applied and the community actually supported having the consent on a Sunday night, but at our latest hearing, the commissioners voted against that or determined against that.
Okay, thank you for that. Deputy Mayor will move this and it'll be seconded by Councillor Fletcher that we receive this. Thank you very much for your presentation. If you step back, we might have some comments, but we had a lot of comments on those questions. Does anyone want to further this? No, in that case, I'll move it. And all those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. Thank you very much for that presentation and for those long list of questions. It was a very valuable input, and we will be considering some of those limitations at the planning meeting of yours, Richard Hills, coming up.
Your Worship, Nick was kind in talking to the dialogue that we're having with Eden Park. I just want to reciprocate and say that in terms of the board, the trustees, and in terms of Nick and his team, there is a really constructive dialogue there and it's appreciated.
Yeah, I think that all the council support the efforts that are taking place in that regard. It's been going on for donkey's years. Righto, we're going to move to item 8.2, the adoption of standing orders. We had a good open workshop about that last week. This item is not really affecting the citizens, but affects some of us, all of us, and some of us are quite interested in this. The government says that they're going to do a uniform set of standing orders for council around the country to make us all the same as Gore, but we'll see how they're going to do that. There's also a helpful table in the back of the report which shows things that were raised and what's proposed. So, Councillor Gillen, you can see what the changes were essentially there. I could move. Oh, I'm happy to move this, and it can be seconded by whomever, the Deputy Mayor. And I'd welcome Andrew Pickering and Sandra with an R beside me, who's going to stay where she is to answer any questions. And note that we need a 75% majority to change this. So it will be taken by division when we get to the end of this. And it's a 75% of those present. Oh, some of them are wandering off. Okay, Andrew.
Kia ora koutou, Your Worship and Councillors. Andrew Pickering. Andrew Pickering, Head of Governance Services, and Sandra O'Toole, Manager for Governance Advisors. We're here to, as part of the review of the of your standing orders, we've made some structural changes to the document, but the main substantive changes are around the clearer processes for recording and support or opposition of parts of a motion, a resolution of ambiguity around votes expressed in parts but decided as a whole, and notices of motion. We've strengthened the provisions for petitions, clarifications around petitions, public input and local input. They're excluded from extraordinary and emergency and urgent meetings. We've proposed a change to electronic attendance. It no longer requires a meeting decision for participation, and members attending electronically must have their cameras on unless the chairperson agrees otherwise. We've amended the points of order, so all points of order and standing orders are cited. Orders cited will be recorded. And there's a table of those changes attached to the document. Sandra and I are happy to respond to any partai. Thank you.
Councillor Ferry has the first question.
Kia ora, thank you. Can I just note, it's very useful being able to request an opportunity to speak via the resolve system, but it doesn't have a button for questions. It only has for or against. So that's something we need to look at, I think. So thank you for this, and I think you've made the standing orders in general a lot easier to follow and read as well, in terms of the rejig. I really appreciate the table. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. One is the electronic attendance. So the discussion we had in the workshop was that basically electronic attendance will be at the discretion of the chair, but I don't see that reflected here. It seemed to indicate there was a right to electronic attendance, whereas we were saying that there were those three reasons there, A, which was not able to be physically present on council business, B, which was around illness as a factor, and I'll come back to that in a second, and C was emergencies. So can I just clarify the expectation there is that if someone applies for electronic attendance, they need to satisfy the chair that they've met one of those grounds?
Yes, that's so. Yes.
Okay, great. And so further on B, and so I guess I just want to have this conversation in the meeting, just to be clear, so that where illness is a factor, that wording is deliberately loose so that it includes, like it might be a dependent who is ill or a parent or something like that. That's not restricted to the illness of the councillor. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Yeah, great. And my final question was just the amendments part. It doesn't mention the direct negative in the table. I'm just checking that we're still not supporting direct negatives, because it doesn't mention that. Because a direct negative is where you would just vote against.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure direct negatives are out, but
Yeah, they're still out, right? Yeah, great, cool. Thank you very much. Really appreciated the work on this.
Questions, thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. So just sort of following on from the attendance stuff. So is there a definition, and I didn't see it, but are we able to define what is council business? And so I mean, so a councillor organising a meeting at the same time of a shouldn't, I don't believe, be council business when they can avoid it on what their priority is.
That's right, councillor. The wording is kept. So it gives a broader definition for the chair and the councillor to have that discussion. So by prescribing it, it makes it a little harder, because circumstances can change. The reason for can be quite broad. So having an absolute rule doesn't give you the flexibility to have the discussion between the chair and the councillor. What you are talking about with council business there, it is quite clear as you start to talk through with your chairperson what council business is and council business isn't. But ultimately, it's a judgment between the two parties.
So the expectation is the chair will drill down into, with someone who applies for council business, that the chair will drill down and say, well, what exactly is that business, and make the determination.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. So in 3.5.6 and 3.5.7, it talks about technology. Point 6 says council has no obligation to make technology available. Point 7 says the chair must ensure that technology is available. So are we making it available? Whose job is it, and how does that work out?
Through the chair, we're covering both bases there, aren't we? Yes, we will absolutely make the facility available to the councillors, but sometimes, for whatever reason, it might not be available. So we're sort of trying to cover ourselves a little bit there.
Good questions, though. I think we are trying to get the situation where if there's a really important meeting here, just attending some minor thing somewhere out in the thing and saying that's council work is not, you know, that would be a case where I think we really want you here rather than just opening some small thing somewhere. That's that's
the
what's
intention,
supposed to be happening, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think,
I've got.
sorry, Your Worship, there's a subtlety here too. If for some reason the technology doesn't work, it can't be the case that the decision's unsound, and yeah.
Right, just at the moment we're going back to old school stuff, and Councillor Filipina, who's an expert in this, will ask a question. Thank you, Councillor Filipina.
Tēnā koe hea mana. Tēnā koe, Andrew. Clarification. You said, and if I misheard you, please tell me, you said that it's the chair is the person that has to be satisfied, for want of a better term, to approve electronic attendance. Is that what you said?
Yes, I think that's what I said, yes.
Shouldn't the approval be based on the standing orders? And the reason I say that is in relation to what Andy was talking about when he said that, so the chair, depending on the reason that is given, for example, on council business, that the chair would have to drill down to their satisfaction to approve electronic attendance. I'm finding that wrong from my perspective. The standing orders are there for us to utilise. Why would it be the responsibility of the chair to, one, drill down, but also, more importantly, to approve when the electronic attendance should be based on standing orders? That's why I want to get some clarification of this, because I do not personally want the chair to start drilling down to other councillors saying, no, I believe that this is not council business, therefore then I will not be approving electronic attendance, when in standing orders, here are your obligations and the reasons you can at least approve, to put in a request to attend electronically. So can you explain that? Because I'm just a wee bit, I'm...
Through the chair, I'll have a go. The standing orders are a set of your rules of how you manage your behaviours and you operate your meetings. It's the chairperson who employs those rules and uses those rules. So it gives you flexibility, gives the chairperson and the member flexibility on having a discussion without having that prescribed rule that just says this and gives you no flexibility whatsoever. So effectively the chairperson is using the standing orders and applying the standing orders on behalf of the meeting.
So Andrew, you're the chair, and I need to do this because I'm a wee bit worried that this is going to get out of hand. You are the chair. I have asked for electronic attendance, and that electronic attendance is on council business, which is understanding orders, which is my right. Right? I've said I am seeking electronic attendance because I'm on council business. You're saying that now standing orders will give the right to the chair, whoever he or she is, to say, well, tell me, what is your council business? Well, I'm attending a meeting. What is that meeting about? This is what you're suggesting here, which I think is wrong. Because I know the chair is trying to sort of lead the meeting on behalf of the committee, right? But I don't think that they have the right to question any of us around this table, even the mayor. I don't think we've got the right. If the mayor said, look, I'm not here, and I'm seeking approval to be online because I'm on council business, I just don't want to see this. Well, what's your council business? Why are you attending it now? I just don't see it. I'm glad the lawyer's here now. So look, that's why
As a person who might be in a position to have
Yeah.
to make a decision here,
Yeah, I just
you've
don't want
posed the
to see
question.
it. It's wrong for the chair. Sorry.
We've had a few councils' businesses which, once the phone's gone on, have turned out to be in cafes. If you are on council business, no one wants to. It's not like a police investigation, but you could say I'm opening I'm attending Manukau students' launch, and that's all you've got to say. It's this approval for not being here. That's what it is. And so if there's and I think that if you're on council business, you'd be quite happy to say I'm doing it. If you're just at home reading the papers, then we'd rather have you here. So I think that's kind of like the thing we have had the odd thing with cups of teas and rattling on in the background, which is not an excuse for not being here. So we're trying to get people to come here. There's an obligation to come unless you can't. And if you've got an illness or a death, no one's going to go into what is your illness or your death. We'll accept that. But what is your council business? It wouldn't be too hard to say. I can just imagine most people saying, council sayers is often attending sewage meeting problems in Maharangi, and that's all he's got to say. But
I understand the sentiment, Chair. I understand the sentiment, but my issue is that it's up to it's the satisfaction of the chair. That's my issue, because if I put in, and anybody around this table puts in, I'm attending a meeting with my constituents, I'm hoping that that's sufficient, and if the chair's not satisfied, I'm not going to answer any bloody question from the chair to say, oh, what are you talking to your constituents about? I mean, that's what I'm trying to sort of
we're
highlight
just trying to
here.
get a perspective here.
Yeah,
so is a meeting with a constituent, could it not be on another day than we publish the dates when we're going to meet as a governing body? Then just meeting a constituent is not really an excuse not for showing up on those days, unless it's a really, really important one. But Katie's got something to offer here, Alf, and I don't want to tangle myself up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought it would just help to note that provision in the standing orders reflects clause 25A of Schedule 7 of the LGA that provides that where a member of a local authority, a member of the local authority has the right to attend a meeting of the local authority by means of audio link or audio-visual link, and one of the conditions for that is that the presiding member at the meeting is satisfied that all conditions and requirements in the standing orders in relation to attendance at that meeting by means of audio link or audio-visual link are met. So that just reflects the provision in the Act itself for the chair to be satisfied that the conditions set out in standing orders are met.
So, Katie, what you're saying is that there will be opportunities and the ability for a to and fro between the chair and the person who is asking for approval to attend electronically. That's what you're saying?
Yes, so it would be for the chair to confirm with the member that's requesting remote attendance to check that all the conditions and requirements as set out in standing orders are met, and that would be for the chair to check with the member.
I look forward to that discussion.
Councillor Watson and then Councillor Lee.
Yeah, first question, this summary, Andrew, it contains everything. I haven't gone through it contains all the points that have been changed, so we only have to look at the summary to pick up everything that's been changed in the new standing orders?
Through the chair, I believe. Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, so I've got a question on the notice of motion. Two questions really. One, what was the rationale for not permitting any amendments, which has been the case in the past? I kind of agree with it actually, but I'm just curious to know what the rationale is for that. And the second question goes to the reasons for refusal and the subjectivity or otherwise of being refused if it doesn't include sufficient information as to satisfy the provisions of those various sections of the LGA. So one, what was the rationale for taking out amendments, and two, where does that that refusal for who's making the call on the sufficient information?
Through the chair, Sandra will help me out here. This is one for Sandra. Thank you.
I will confess that I had somebody asking me another question in my ear, so I missed half of yours. The rationale around no amendments. Yeah, no amendments to a notice of motion were around allowing the member that's put it forward to have that notice of motion debated without it being changed.
Good. And the other question went to this grounds for refusal in terms of insufficient information under the LGA. It doesn't include sufficient information. That wasn't on the previous standing orders, and I guess, how subjective is that, given, I guess it depends on what the NOM is asking for, but what's the interpretation of lack of sufficiency of information then?
That would be around giving us some background information so that you've got a really full picture of what the notice of motion is asking for, rather than just popping up a notice of motion with a very brief sentence and then what you want it to say.
Councillor Lee, I think that probably deals with one of your complaints, this particular change.
Yeah, I'm just curious about why the standing orders need to be changed, especially given the fact that the government is actually trying to draft consistent standing orders as a template, model standing orders, and here we go with our own set of standing orders, being fully aware what is happening. We're coming up with, if you like, a parallel set of new standing orders when the existing standing orders are certainly, without argument, fit for purpose. So I have a series of questions, and the first one is, why are we changing the standing orders so comprehensively, 30 extra standing orders, and when it is acknowledged that a forthcoming national template is being produced, and presumably we are meant to follow the national template? Why are we doing this now?
Through the chair, the review of standing orders is best practice to look at them every 3 years. We started the review quite early on as the term was going through, picking up where the standing orders could be improved. The government's proposal came in quite late this year. We also took the opportunity to tidy up some of the issues that we had seen throughout the year, the electronic attendance and quorum being the main change. The government's standing order review we're unsure when it will land. We think it will be, they'll have the act in place around, I think it's March, April of next year. The Secretary then has to authorise any new sets of standing orders, which may take another 6 months or so. So from our, hopefully also from your point of view, having our standing orders in place now gives us some more clarity before the government's standing orders arrives sometime next year, late next year. Thank you.
Okay, we are told that best practice, whoever is the authority on that, recommends that standing orders are reviewed within 6 months of an election. We have comprehensively changed our standing orders almost to the point of trivia, as if someone has gone through with a thesaurus, changing responsibilities of the chair to the chair's responsibilities. In other words, there almost seems to be a deliberate attempt to make these new standing orders completely difficult to compare with our present standing orders, to ascertain the changes. Why not only why the extra standing orders, and why has the wording been changed so comprehensively if the purpose is to, as we are told, provide a clearer and more accessible framework in the interim, strengthening good governance and open decision making? Why has the new standing orders, proposed standing orders, been written so differently, even if the meaning is essentially the same, to make it completely difficult to compare with the existing standing orders? Why is that?
Through the chair, in a way, I think you answered your own question there. We've tried to make the standing orders a lot clearer, and that may mean that some of the clauses are broken up. We've tried to make things, well, more clearer, which is why the structure has changed. To give that clarity, to make sure that as best we can, the standing orders can be interpreted easily and cleanly for ourselves, yourselves, and the communities.
Okay. In terms of clarity, one of the standards in standing orders and meeting procedure from Parliament on down is that amendments must not be direct negatives, and that's included in these standing orders. However, we also have an amendment to a motion may be way of, an amendment by way of addition, an amendment by way of replacement, and we've been using that device illegitimately already without any provision in standing orders, and an amendment by way of deletion. What's happened to the direct negative principle when it comes to amendments? I mean, is that making things clearer, or will that cause more controversy and argument, because it's completely contradictory, those two provisions?
Through the chair, through the chair, we hope those proposed changes will make things clearer.
It's a bit of a shame you didn't come to the workshop there, Councillor Lee.
Well, this is the bit. This is the meeting. This is the governing body, is it not? This is on the agenda. Are we? What is Mr. Pickering here for?
I accept that, but it was a pity you didn't come to the workshop.
I've a further question. Is it? Do I read it that it's okay now to read speeches because that provision has been dropped even though there are more standing orders now than ever before. So it's okay to read speeches?
That's correct, Councillor Lee. You can now do that.
That's not in the changes.
There was always a standing order that said that if you wished to read a speech, you could do so with the agreement of the chair. That's now been removed so that you can actually do that. I mean, you've got electronic devices now, which you probably all use like the rest of us. So that's why that provision has been taken out.
So, and also, you can read speeches, but you may not criticise resolutions. This is a new standing order. Why can't one criticise resolutions? There is a qualifier in it that makes it more confusing, of course.
That provision has actually always been in the standing orders. It's probably just been a little bit buried.
Okay, and one of the rights, one of the rights of elected members is to ask for a report from the Chief Executive. A matter comes up, it may be introduced by the public. The members have the right to ask the Chief Executive to come back with a report. That's long-standing right of elected members. Now there's a standing order to say the Chief Executive may refuse to do that. So the governing body may decide or agree to ask the Chief Executive to come back with a report, and the Chief Executive has a right to say to the governing body, no, I'm not going to do it. How democratic is that? Why would that be put in there? Has this been abused in the past? Why has that been put in there?
Perhaps while there, can I just share that I had the experience when I was a local board chair of having a notice of motion turned down by the organisation back in 2014, 2015, so I understand that's long-standing.
I think you have to have very good reasons for that, but if there are very good reasons, the Chief Executive is entitled to that, but he's got to show his reasons, okay, and that's already in there apparently.
Mr. Mayor, maybe we should wait for the new standard audit template to come from the government before we make such a comprehensive and I believe unnecessary change to our already fit for purpose standing orders, especially deleting some, but managing to increase the standing orders by 30 or so. I mean, that's bureaucracy gone mad, if I may say so, if that's allowed within standing orders.
Thank you for your input. I'll go to Councillor Newman next.
Your Worship, my question is actually a question to you and to Phil perhaps as opposed to Andrew. Just the mechanics of this, because I'm listening to these questions and this is an unusual item because this requires 75% of this room to adopt it. I'm not sure that there is 75% support, and if there isn't, then it falls over. So are we going to, notwithstanding if people were at or not at the workshop or what have you, are we going to proceed to a vote on this item today and for this to potentially fall over, or are we going to pull this and wait, or how do you plan to deal with this now?
Well, I'm going to proceed to a vote, and if it doesn't get 3/4 of the thing, we'll stay where we were. So and wait around for the government to tell us how to behave. But I think there's a golden opportunity for us to decide ourselves, because we might decide somewhat differently and use our size to tell the government that what was they've come up with, having spoken to the mayors of Horowhenua, wherever that is, in Gore, that they've chosen something or other which will fit for us. But if we're not sufficiently able to agree to something or other, well, that's fine by me too. I'm a great believer in democracy. We were trying to get at the nub of things, was that to encourage people to show up and have a good reason for not showing up, because there was behaviour which had crept into place as a result of COVID, was we had some very poor attendances last time that were marked as very excellent because they were online, and we can't ultimately run this place online without knowing where the people really are online, and so that we're just trying to solve it. But if we're quite happy not to solve that, then I'm quite happy to go. So I'm not going to burn in the. It's not a burning issue for me, but I'm quite happy to receive that question, and that was a good question. Thank you very much. And I'll go to Councillor Foley.
That was quick. My question was about whether this is going to be voted on as an entirety for the whole thing, all the changes all together, or will we be voting on some of the changes? Because I think some of the changes are not so controversial, and perhaps others are ones where you might not get the 75%. So that's my question in terms of the voting process going forward. All in one big bang or separately?
Through the chair, all in one is the proposal.
Yeah. All right. Good question, though. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Just going back to Councillor Filipaina. Just if the chair says, no, I'm not going to accommodate your request to be on council business, what's the result? You know, like, the reason I'm asking that is because my diary's really full. I'm on the Monga Authority. I'm on Water Care as lead councillor for regional parks. I'm on 2 Waitakere committees, and then we get all these placeholders put in for the governing body and for our committees of the whole, etc. And they all disappear right, left, and centre, and you're left with those one meetings with a constituent that that I've got one at the moment, been put back 3 times because staff can't make it as well, and we've had to change. So my question is, if I come in here with a burning issue that I've put off 3 times, and the chair drills down and says, no, that's not really council business, and I go to it anyway and don't turn up, what's the result? I'm just put down as not attending, is that correct?
Well, it's always going to be, there's always be tricky circumstances, but I think what we're intending here was such, you might tell people before that you're going to, you'd have ring up and say, look, I'm not going to be there on Tuesday. I know it's an important meeting and I've got a meeting somewhere or other, and you can have a chat with the chair. I don't think this is supposed to be a public inquisition, but we just have things where people just go up and say, council business. You've got no idea what is council business. And
Mr. Mayor, I support us all having to turn up here and do the job. I just want to make sure that it's not one-sided. Thank you.
I think that all those little things set aside for things. I mean, the next effort is the meeting schedule, so you'll have some idea of what that is. If it's a workshop and things, well, we don't expect 100% arrival at a workshop, but this is the governing body. People are interested in what we're doing, and they would like to see us here a bit more often than we possibly have had. But we're about to do a vote on this, and I'll be happy to go with the flow on this. If that's good, that's all the questions I've got at the moment, so you can retire and we'll have a debate on this, which is probably what we've had already. And I think Councillor Filipaina probably wants to kick off. Do you want to debate on this or not? Okay. I do too. Good on you, Alf. Simpson?
I was just going to speak to it. Look, on a couple of things. One, I think, we've been elected around the table to do this as a priority, the committees of the whole especially, right? And I think we've all got busy diaries, and I'm guilty like everybody else of having things in my diary that I believe I need to go to on council business. I think it's not a problem till it's a problem. So let's give it a go, is what I will say, and see how it mucks up. We've all got busy diaries. We all want to spend time in our constituency, but I do believe, especially prioritising committees as a whole. We know they're now on Tuesdays and potentially it's on Thursdays, but those are the meeting days. And as the Mayor said, the next item's coming up. As for the government coming up with nationwide rules around this, look, fine, let's have a look at it when it comes. But we're fulfilling our statutory role now of having a look at some standing orders. Give it a go and try first, all right? Don't complain before you start. Let's give it a go first. Give it the benefit of the doubt. Thank you. I would urge you to support the standing orders. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There you are. That's very good. Any debate? Councillor Watson.
I asked a couple of times about the summary of changes to the standing orders that is in our agenda, and I asked, is that all the changes that are being made? And the answer was yes, it was. However, Councillor Lee, and being a little bit more diligent than me, going through and comparing the standing orders as they are now, as opposed to what they're going to be in the future if this goes through. I mean, he came up with this one, which I regard as quite an important one, this one to do with reading speeches. So it's always been the convention here, far less the standing orders, that members must not read their speeches. And I think that's the convention in Parliament too, isn't it? Even though some of them to read it. So that's probably more relevant now than it's ever been before, because now, as most people will know, you can go to Chat GPT and say, well, compose a 5-minute speech to me opposing the Mayor's budget or something. So are we going to have the spectacle now of 20 people reading their speech, in some cases maybe generated by Chat GPT? That's going to be a little bit tedious, isn't it? So that's actually quite an important one, because it goes to the manner of which the debate is conducted. And reading a speech, and particularly if it's a repetitive habit, then I don't think that's appropriate. Now, that's the one that Councillor Lee has picked up. I don't know if there's other ones there like that, because I haven't gone through and looked at every single one.
CEO can refuse a report.
I took the notion that was the summary. I was okay with the summary, but obviously it doesn't cover all the matters that have been changed. So on that basis, I'm somewhat less confident on supporting this than I was when it started, and particularly if that reading speeches one is anything to go by. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I mean, if we all have the same speeches by Chat, we might spot that, but you're right. And in terms of reading speeches, these bloody things here, it's amazing what people can pop in front of you. Some of the things that it's also come out today is some of the things that were in the old rules. Some of us didn't realise were there anyhow. So it's exposed that, if nothing else. I've got Councillor Ferry next.
Kia ora, thank you. Sorry, I forgot to do it through the button. I just wanted to say that I thought we had a really useful workshop discussion, and I know this is the decision-making opportunity, but I think some of what's been raised in the meeting today, we did have some really fruitful workshop discussion about. That was an open workshop as well, so those who were unable to attend could have gone back and watched it, and hopefully they did. But some of the questions and debate suggests maybe not. So that might be something people want to familiarise with themselves with for when they do miss a workshop. The issue about council business and the discretion of the chair, one of the examples I shared in the workshop was a local board member who was turned down. Their standing orders were a little bit different from ours, who was turned down by a chair. So there was for electronic attendance. So there has been some use of that already. In that case, I felt it was unfair, and the way that we have amended the B around illness for the factor of illness would have meant that person had a right to attend. So there's some nuance here that I think is well captured in the new wordings. I was a little bit worried about that one landing right, and I think that that's a nice amount of flexibility. I think if chairs are misusing their right to decline, including the right to decline notices of motion, then I think we all have an ability to raise that. And I think most of us around the table have been pretty adept at raising process issues in the media as well. This is not the only forum we have. So I'm not too concerned about that, but maybe if we do find things don't work, as the Deputy Mayor's pointed out, we will bring them back here. Finally, I just wanted to touch on the issue around speeches. So that has been in the standing orders for a long time, that other than maiden speeches, we're not supposed to read a speech. However, it hasn't been enforced. So right through last term, I saw a variety of members using speeches and it not being raised as a problem. And so from my point of view, this is just making clear a change that had already happened by custom and practice, because people were doing it for the last 3 years and it wasn't enforced, and it wasn't brought up as an issue either. So I don't have a problem with it personally. If people are going to use ChatGPT, that's kind of on them. I personally don't, but you know, that's a conversation for you with your constituents, I guess, about if you're not feeling confident enough to do that. But it does enable people who might otherwise be quite nervous in what is an intimidating environment to actually feel more prepared and more able to articulate themselves, particularly those who are new to the table. It's not a practice I've done. I write bullet points and then speak to those. But I think it's a good, flexible way of acknowledging this can be quite scary. So that's my contribution. I will be supporting these standing orders. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. I think that it's not a conspiracy to change things. It was in response to things we've observed. And as a person who was probably unable to fully police the speech thing, you can't really see what people are reading. Some people would be improved if they wrote down their questions and read them out, rather than rattling on for hours. So the speeches are often shorter than what they say, so that's not entirely bad. Councillor Lee, you did raise one when you didn't like people amending your point of order, and we've listened to you and we've made a change that's in your favour, which is odd for a person who doesn't seem to like this. I'll have Patterson, Hamlin and then Fletcher. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was similar to Julie's point, in that my practice personally, and I know everybody approaches this differently, is to kind of jot down points, especially if there's information like facts and figures to be remembered. I'm doing it right now to make sure that I don't get sidetracked and stay on my point. I'm not sure if that counts as reading a speech or not, but it's certainly how I operate best, and I'd hope that that would be able to be incorporated without too much trouble.
Right, Fletcher?
I didn't put my hand up, but
let's pop it down.
I think given you have given me the opportunity, the only observation I want to make on this is that we are different to the rest of New Zealand insofar we are the only council, as I think, where you as mayor have the authority to create the governance structure and to do the appointment of chairs and deputy chairs. So whether that throws a different complexion on the way in which chairs might interpret requests or not is something that is running through my mind, because I think we are all wanting to have good democracy in Auckland Council. We are all wanting to have the contest of good ideas and to get to the bottom of things and to have evidence-based decisions being taken. But what has come through in the questions is perhaps a slight skew that maybe people might be intimidated or unduly influenced. I mean, I don't know. So whether we should wait for a model that the rest will be adopted by the rest of New Zealand, or whether we should do something that is bespoke to Auckland, is given the authority you have in this, I suppose the question is how you're going to exercise that privilege and responsibility that you have. So I'm all for trying something new, but I would like to believe that it's going to be done in good faith.
Well, thank you for that question. I would hope to exercise it sensibly and with caution. I think if we don't do this, we remove the opportunity for us to say we're different, and we're just lining up for the rest of the country to get us the Gore Herolfanua rules. If we pass this ourselves, we've preserved the ability, if the government come up with something that isn't going to work, to say, we've just done it ourselves, we don't need your help. So I'm caution not supporting this. Councillor Hills, please.
Kia ora, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I have a couple of issues, but I'm not going to vote against because I guess trying to get all of us to agree on something quite specific is hard anyway. But yeah, I do have concerns that I think we should monitor. I do, and I know that Andy had brought it up at the workshop too, have concerns about the everyone counts for quorum from the beginning. I kind of understand if people tail off during the meeting and have to go to other things, but I do worry that essentially could be the mayor or the chair or whoever alone in this room, and we can start the meeting and be here for an hour or so just by ourselves or with a trickle of people. I understand there are good reasons for electronic attendance, but I would hope that the majority, or even if it's slim, are in the room most of the time, especially for the Tuesday committee. So I do worry that the change that everyone counts for quorum, whether you're in person or online, starts from the beginning. It just might lend itself to not good governance, but I'm willing to see. And I hope that people, I think I've almost been in the room for all meetings, but have been online for a couple to illness and things. So I understand there is reasons, but I hope over time. The other one is the notice of motions. It wasn't brought up in the workshop, really. We didn't discuss it, so I felt a bit blindsided. But I do understand that it may mean the mover has to work across the table pre the meeting to get a good resolutions up on the table that will be likely passed. But I do worry that if the notice of motion resolutions become part of the meeting, they should be able to be amended if there's a majority. That's just democracy to improve it or change it. But I guess we'll see how that's managed throughout. But it could end up that people could abuse it by just putting up sort of political statements, and we just have to vote, 11 votes yes, 10 votes no, whatever, as opposed to the ability to sit around the table and improve it or make it nuanced. So that will be an interesting one. But yeah, I'm happy to support the standing orders, even though I don't.
Okay, thank you for that. I think if we get to the stage where no one shows up other than the chair, we might have noticed that we might need to review it again. And there's nothing preventing us doing it. This is just an effort to try and improve things. I think we've got no more, so I'm going to put this to a vote. It'll be a vote by, whatever you call? Division. And because we have to get 75% here, so those that be against it can be against it. Councillor...
Yes, just a minute.
Councillor Lee wants to have a chat.
I want to make the point, Mr. Chair, that I understand this was this matter was looked at a workshop, but obviously not as thoroughly as it might have been. Probably because workshops tend to be briefings rather than all-in participation meetings. But anyway, leaving that aside, there are a number of concerns here. Significant changes and extension to the existing standing orders, which are fit for purpose. At the same time as the central government is trying to create a new nationwide template. It just seems like bureaucratic rivalry to me and a waste of public money and time. However, the real concern here, and Councillor Watson has noted what I said about reading the speeches. It's actually, that just indicates that the differences have never really been highlighted. They're certainly not highlighted in the report. There's no clarity on this in the report, the agenda report, but there are significant changes that concern me. And one is criticism on resolutions. The rights of members to criticise a resolution have been significantly restricted. I think that is a concern. The other issue is the right of the chief executive. The chief executive may delay or refuse a democratic request. I can't live with that one, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. And finally, you mentioned an amendment that was made to benefit me, or words to that effect, and that must be 3.19.5, alteration of a notice of motion. From now on, one cannot alter or amend a notice of motion. If the standing orders had been complied with, it wouldn't have been an issue, and of course I refer to the long debate over helipads, to make helipads a prohibited activity. But it seemed to me that the council, members and staff felt the rights of billionaires to have helipads could not be opposed. And therefore, they went to the lengths of actually coming up with a thing called an amendment by way of replacement, which does not exist in our current standing of orders, but lo and behold, they're going to be in the new standing orders, in complete contradiction to the standing order 3.15.8, amendments must be relevant and not direct negatives. So all of those are changes, Mr. Chair, the 30 extra standing orders do not help the governance, do not help clarity, are going to be divisive, are going to be ambiguous and therefore contentious, and they will therefore achieve the direct opposite of what the report promises would be achieved by adopting these new extra standing orders, at the same time in rivalry with those of the central government, it seems. So I think I cannot support these changes, especially so quickly after the election before people have become familiar with them. And obviously people are not familiar with them despite workshops. We need to do better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank God for that. Okay. I'm going to put the motion. Yeah, we said by division.
Thank you, councillors. This is going to be your first electronic vote. We're going to start the vote in a moment and you will get a message on your screen. You will vote at that time. If you need any help from any of the staff around the room, please put your hand up and we'll endeavour to do that. So we're going to start the vote now. We have the Mayor registered and we have Councillor Lee registered. And we're just waiting for Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Fletcher, we'll register yours manually if you're happy.
Are you for it?
The Mayor has voted, Councillor Lee has voted. Yes, we've done it manually for them.
Councillor, you have the ability to register a vote directly.
In the ear if you wish.
Okay, councillors, we have completed the vote count. So, yep. So as you can see, it's been carried 15 votes to 3 with 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to item 8.3, the governing body meeting schedule. Now, Sandra's tried very hard to make everything fit into 1,054 days between now and October the 2028. I'm happy to move this, and it'll be seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any questions for Sandra and anybody else? Sandra O'Toole, you're the Manager of Governance Advisors.
I am.
This is very impressive. I always thought you were just a great lady. Are there any questions about this? Apparently not. Yes, there are. Councillor.
Oh, it was just, thank you. The Thursday meetings, they used to be, some of the meetings were 2 on a day. Have we decided that, were there enough meetings that went over time that made it too difficult? Is that why it's split onto 1 meeting per Thursday?
Yes, that's right, and moving to a 6-week schedule allows us to do that more easily. So we've looked at, as you say, the ones that went over last time and the ones that have the potential to go longer than the 3 hours.
And the workshops, was there any reason why it's chosen to be the 2 at the end of the day instead of the 2 at the beginning or the middle? It just sometimes actually a lot more people seem to disappear at the end, but are actually there earlier. Was there a reason to choose the last 2 workshop times?
Thanks for the question. Yes, there was. The executive leadership team are going to meet on a Wednesday morning, so we'll be unavailable for workshops.
Okay. Cool, but can that be reviewed as well? Say if, I know a lot of people who live far further away than me, it can be difficult to leave if we finish at 6. As opposed to doing it earlier in the day.
I think I'm going to throw that to the Chief Executive.
I beg your pardon, I was reading something else.
It was
Well,
about
it's just,
swapping your ELT meetings from the morning to the afternoon if that was something that would be required.
It's just the workshops used to be 4 in a day, now they're 2, but it's chosen to do the 2 late afternoon slots instead of the middle or earlier in the day on Wednesdays.
I'm agnostic about that. We can do that. What I'm trying to avoid, and I know this is perhaps a little selfish, but I'm trying to avoid the executive team needing to meet on Friday afternoons because every other minute of the week is taken up in workshops and committees, and that's not a good way for a strategic, high-performing exec team to operate in the organisation. So if it has to be Wednesday afternoon to accommodate, that's fine.
Should a problem arise, I'm sure that negotiations will happen. It's very hard to get things dead right until 2028. So I think it's a good effort, but again, it can be changed if it's not working. All right. Question from Councillor Newman, please.
Actually, my question is to Councillor Hills. Apart from the forthcoming meeting on the 27th, are we having another meeting of your committee before the end of the year?
No, there may be an extraordinary one before Christmas, but...
Is that to deal with the rubbish thing? Because I don't want that held over until the new year. I mean, are we going to settle that one? Or?
That's likely, yes.
The extraordinary matter?
Yeah, it'll be on Christmas Eve. No, just kidding.
Better not. Okay.
All right. Moved and seconded.
Sorry,
Debate, Councillor Philippina, please.
yeah, I used the resolve thing, but Sandra, can you tell me, I know there was an indication at the workshop around the smaller committees on a 6-weekly, but then civil defence on a bi-monthly at this stage. And I don't see that reflected in the schedule, the attachment. Can I then suggest that we have a conversation around the frequency at this stage, and in particular for the 2026 year? So is that okay with you, Sandra? Because I know there was an indication from the Mayor that the bi-monthly schedule for civil defence at this stage anyway be put to the committee today?
Absolutely, we can
She'll
have a
amend that.
conversation.
Thank you very much for raising that. This is best hopes for 3 years. And I have a question from somebody. Patterson Hamlin.
Kia ora, sorry, I used the resolve thing as well. Just a quick one. The workshops say if required, how much notice will we receive if those are required?
Sometimes we have things that pop up urgently and they're usually the week before, but we will know with a week's notice whether we need to use all those slots, and they will become vacant in your calendar if we don't need to use them. Best practice for us is to have sufficient time to get them in your calendar, you to know what you're doing, and for us to get the information together to get to you before we hold the workshop.
Rest assured, I'll be pressuring to get the maximum amount of time ahead, so we know that you can live your lives in peace. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Okay, we're going pretty well today. The next 3 items are fairly process reports. I'm happy to move these, and they'll be seconded by the Deputy Mayor. An update. These are things that, for those new amongst us, it just reminds us what's happened. And some of that had happened before you'd arrived anyhow, so it doesn't know. Okay, so I'll move them as a group. Is there any questions about these? It's just a matter of a list of things to look at that we've done. Oh, and by the way, for the last, just as a result of the last thing, Sandra will always have a hard copy of the standing orders available on site during every meeting. So if you do have a problem with that, you can pop round and see her and see what they are, but they're always kept here. Okay. I'm just going to move these 3 and go up the row. Is that right? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, carried. Right, we're going very well here. This could be a new record. Thank you for coming. We're going to have to go into secrecy now. This is moved by Alf and seconded by Fletcher. Were you seconding something there, Councillor Ferry, or just having a minor sort of gymnastic experience? Righto. All those in favour of going to contrary, carried. Right, we're in secrecy. There'll be a few minutes here. The huge crowd there. Angus McPhee, who's bravely settled through that. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you very much for the meeting we had last week too, by the way. We'll have about a 5-minute break and we'll resume.